Hi folks, this lecture covers immigration in the Gilded Age. We have new immigrants that Americans called new immigrants, and they were new immigrants because they had certain characteristics that were not there for the old immigrants. We'll also be looking at the significance of Ellis Island, the transition from there to here, and the particular experiences of women. New immigrants had the following characteristics. They were Catholic, they were Jewish, they were from Eastern and Southern Europe, Poland, Germany, Italy, they were from Russia, and they are met with skepticism by Americans. Those born here start calling themselves natives unless they have the ideology called nativists or nativism. The new immigrants came from societies that did not have a history of democracy or capitalism or open culture. In fact, most of these new immigrants came from countries or areas in which government was feared. So there is no real government to assist them. The idea that government should stay out of your way, it's very Jeffersonian. That's the reality of the United States until the Great Depression, except, of course, if you're businesses. Businesses then and today get all sorts of corporate welfare, but not individual welfare, at least not at that time. So these new immigrants would not turn to government because they believed government was bad. Government was something to fear. Government in this country didn't do anything for you anyhow, so they turned to the party bosses, the Democratic and the Republican bosses. It's the Republican Democratic bosses which provide needed services to these people. They find them a place to live, they find them a job, extend benefits, whatever they need, of course, in exchange for political support. Well, Ellis Island is the main port of entry for European immigrants. They undertake medical exams, psychological exams, their names are changed. There's all sorts of exploitation. There are Christian missionaries to try to take the Jewish people and turn them into good American Protestants. There are lawyers to help people in their transition, who some help, but the vast majority are just there to take whatever money they had. Tremendous exploitation, both by religious and secular groups. About 20% will be denied entrance for a myriad of reasons. Either they have a suspected disease like tuberculosis or a venereal disease like syphilis, which, not that syphilis is a bad thing at that time, but it suggests that you're an immoral person. So, nobody with venereal disease, nobody with communicable diseases like TB, anyone who's determined to be, quote, insane or an idiot, anyone that has political or economic views that are antithetical to the American way are kicked out. One of these immigrants is a guy named Elliot Kazan, who did not want his name changed and wanted admittance, and he was unsure if he was going to pass all the tests, so he simply paid off an American official to gain him access. And he said, just like where he came from, there's corruption in the U.S. The transition was difficult. First of all, most people are coming here with the belief that they are going to be temporary. They're going to be transient. They're either going to make, if they're single, they're going to make money and then go home and live nicely. Or if they're a member of an extended family who's being sent here by the family to work and send money back home, nevertheless, they'll be going home one day. And that's one of the psychological problems, is that you are saying goodbye to your friends, you're saying goodbye to your family. You, of course, expect to come back, but there's a little voice in your head that says, absolutely not. Nobody else came back, so why should you be different? Second, an extended family just can't afford to send everybody here, so they put all their eggs in one basket. They choose the best, the brightest of their family to send over here in the hopes that you find a job and can help the family. Sometimes it's a woman, sometimes it's a man. Mary Anton is one of these examples who came over here. She was the best and brightest in her family. She was absolutely terrified. She said as she's leaving, you know, the town puts out a big parade and there's a big presentation and people are slapping you on the back and saying how wonderful you are, how brave you are. The passage to America was for the most part difficult, to say the least. No way buying your food. That's way too expensive. So you bring in whatever you're going to eat, and depending on how many stops the ship makes, it could take weeks, if not months. And if your food rots, well, you got a choice. You eat rotted food or you starve to death. A lot of sexual abuse of women by passengers as well as crew of these ships. There's segregation. The ship captain did not allow men and women to be together for fear that something naughty will happen. So even married couples get split up, with men on one side and women and children on the other side. And when they come here, they're immediately shocked, but not terribly surprised to find out that the streets are not paved with gold, that everyone is not going to bend over backwards to help you, that you are on your own. Women immigrants had an additional burden because the American ideal was that women stay home and take care of the kids and bake chocolate cookies. Of course, that wasn't the reality. The reality is we have always been, we were then, and we continue to be, and probably will always be, a two-income household. We need two adults being paid a full-time salary to succeed in this country, at least, economically, commercially. So the ideal was that you don't work, and a lot of middle-class American nativist reformers would tell these women, well, I know you came over to work, but you're not supposed to work. So there's these middle-class white American reformers telling them they should do something. There's their family telling them they should do something else, so they're being pulled. Italian Catholics, for example, would not work as domestics, and that was the easiest place to get a job. They believed it was beneath them to take care of someone else's house, to cook someone else's food and clean someone else's clothes. Then there were Eastern European Jews who refused to work in factories, believing that factory work is exploitation. Although interestingly enough, or maybe because of that idea that factories are exploitative, a lot of Eastern European Jewish women will become labor reformers in the United States in the 20th century. Different ethnicities established different industries in the United States. Germans, of course, beer, both first in Milwaukee and then in St. Louis. Jewish immigrants establishing really the garment industry in New York City. And of course, all sorts of ethnicities opening up all sorts of ethnic restaurants. Well, the Gilded Age immigration sent us the tired, the poor, but not the Chinese. 1882, we have the Chinese Exclusion Act, anyhow, banning Chinese people from coming here. So, immigration law at this time limited immigrants from coming here, with the exception of the Americans. Until 1920, 1921, it's perfectly acceptable for everyone in the Americas to come here. There's no such need, or there's no such interest, there's no such ideology in restricting immigration from Canada to Argentina. We don't come to that conclusion until after, we don't come to the conclusion that we need restrictions until after World War I, and that's a whole nother story.